Thank you very much, MC Maimba. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, when I got here, I asked what are the protocols before I start speaking. And I was informed that because you guys are industrialists at heart, there's no such thing as protocol here. So if there is, my apologies, but I've been told all protocols observed. I will not do a presentation. It's really a small speech that I'm going to give. But I guess I have to start with the fact that I am quite honored to be standing in front of you. A little nervous as well because it is morning. I'm very much a night owl, not a morning lark. So whenever I speak first, I always find it difficult. So I'm quite nervous, but here we go. I've also been told that in this room, the drivers of progress of our country, the creators of opportunity, the survivors of immense challenges, and the architects of our industrial future. Apparently, are the ones who keep the lights on, and sometimes quite literally. My topic today is anchoring Zimbabwe's industrial and economic future, the Mutapa factor. I pondered on this topic for quite a bit, just trying to figure out what it could possibly really be asking of me to say regarding the fund. If I were a member of the audience today, what would I be expecting to hear from the CIO of Mutapa? And I think in this room, there's probably one person who doesn't, who already knows everything about Mutapa, and that's the chairperson of Mutapa, Dr. Mutasa, who's seated over here. But everyone else, I would imagine, is quite interested in understanding that. Now, given that the I in my title represents investments and not intelligence, you'll forgive me if my understanding of your expectation is somewhat limited to three main objectives that I came up with. Number one being, I expect you would like me to define the fund's role, so what we mean by it as an anchor. And the word anchoring is key. As an anchor provides stability, prevents drifting, and serves as a secure base. Many wonder, is Mutapa Investment Fund the stabilizing force for an economy that has all too well been too volatile for a while? Let's face it, for many a business person in this room, sometimes skydiving without a parachute could feel a lot less scary than starting a business in Zimbabwe. The question I would like to therefore try and answer in my speech here is how the fund will provide a solid foundation of long-term capital and strategic direction and help reduce volatility, as well as build a predictable environment for industrial growth. Second objective is, I suppose, to explain the fund's unique contribution, the factor. And for me, that implies that MIF is somehow a unique game-changing element within our economy. So if I was you and I was sitting there, I would be wondering, what is this factor? Is it just about providing money for the entities that are under Mutapa? I don't think that's enough. I think you would also want to know how that money is to be deployed in the economy. And finally, the third objective is to chart a path for the future. There is obviously a forward-looking element to the topic here. And in charting this path, I should probably try and paint a compelling picture of Zimbabwe's future industrial landscape with the fund as a central and catalytic partner for the industry. Now, meeting these objectives, I expect should be quite a challenge, but I accepted that challenge by accepting to come and speak to you. So I will attempt to meet these three main objectives. However, I would like to shift you, if I may, to a different perspective of achieving these objectives. For a long time as industrialists, we have measured and pursued success with a familiar set of tools, be it profit and loss statements, market share, shareholder returns, and export volumes. We work with KPIs, and indeed, the above three objectives that I mentioned would be my KPI for this speech this morning. These are without question vital for any business, but I want to propose something different. I want to propose answering the question with a more profound KPI. And I would like to speak today on this topic, I would like to answer it by speaking about our collective national happiness. Now, I see some of you may be thinking happiness. That probably sounds like a soft, intangible metric for a room full of hardened industrialists who deal in steel, concrete, and capital. But the evidence gathered from decades of global research by institutions such as the United Nations and regularly published on the internet shows that national happiness is anything but soft. It is a measurable outcome built on a concrete foundation of 6 key pillars. And my core message to you today is that industry is the primary architect of the people of Zimbabwe's happiness. And industry, when supported by strategic, patient, and purposeful national investment, is the most powerful engine for creating broad-based sustainable happiness. And this is what Mutapa's role is. Mutapa Investment Fund stands ready to be your anchor partner in this pursuit of happiness, to provide the fuel, the capital, and the strategic alignment to ensure that the engine that runs powerfully towards a single shared destination, a happier, more prosperous Zimbabwe, has a strong infrastructure foundation. So I'm going to break down a little this happiness into the 6 pillars, and pillar by pillar, we can see how your work as industrialists and how MIF's work as that anchoring factor is intertwined. The first pillar is GDP per capita, which I think we can all agree is the foundation of dignity. So GDP per capita, we would call it our home turf. It's the direct result of what we do every single day. But beyond the pure statistic, there's a human GDP per capita element. It's not just a number. It's a measure of a nation's ability to provide opportunity and dignity. When we at the Mutapa Fund make a cornerstone investment, we consider a lot of factors that ultimately lead to the growth in GDP. So, for example, recently we have announced the refurbishment of Hwange Power Station as well as future expansion of Hwange Power Station. We are not just investing in megawatts. We're investing in the entire ecosystem that you operate in. But let's bring it down to a single person, perhaps. Let's think of a Tendai, perhaps, a young, brilliant engineer who gets a first job at the newly expanded Hwange Power Station. That single job is the start of a powerful ripple effect. Her salary doesn't just stop with her. It pays the school fees for her younger siblings, supporting a teacher's salary. She buys her groceries from the local store, supporting the shop owner, and in turn, the farmer who supplied the maize. She builds a small house, she creates work for bricklayers, carpenters, and electricians. This is the GDP per capita in action. It is one salary, one opportunity, multiplying through the community and creating a web of prosperity. Every time one of Zimbabwe's factories avoids a day of lost production because the power from that Hwange Power Station is more stable, you are strengthening this pillar. You are keeping that economic ripple effect alive. Your success, enabled by reliable infrastructure, is the foundation of our people's dignity. Mutapa Investment Fund's infrastructure companies include NRZ, ZESA, NOIC, Tel1, Net1, Telecel, PowerTel, among others. Essential and core companies in building the country's infrastructure. And with regards to infrastructure development, a key role that MIF plays, besides simply being an active shareholder in this portfolio of companies, is the idea of patient capital. Patient capital is defined as long-term investment where the primary objective is sustainable growth rather than the pursuit of quick profits. This approach is uniquely suited for nations such as ourselves, confronting very deep-seated structural challenges, such as decaying infrastructure and the need for comprehensive industrialization. Unlike traditional venture capital, which often seeks higher returns within a short time frame, patient capital is characterized by a greater tolerance for risk and much longer investment horizons, sometimes spanning 10 to 15 years and even beyond. So MIF's official mandate, which is to make sustainable and profitable investments for the benefit of current and future generations, and to support Zimbabwe's economic and social development goals, aligns perfectmactly with this patient capital doctrine. The provision of stable long-term funding through MIF represents a structural response to decades of macroeconomic volatility, hyperinflation, and currency instability that have hampered Zimbabwe's development. This environment of extreme uncertainty is toxic for private investment, which requires predictability to thrive. Patient capital, by its very nature, is designed to withstand short-term losses and focus on long-term value creation. Therefore, our role in this pillar is to be a patient investor in the infrastructure of our country and create a sustainable increase in GDP per capita. The second pillar of happiness, social support. And this is obvious, a deep human need to know that you have someone to count on in terms of trouble. It's the strength of family, of community, of a nation that looks after its own. A nation's social fabric is woven in its communities. We cannot deny that in Zimbabwe, the bedrock of our communities is agriculture. This is why MIF's investments in institutions like AFC Holdings is so critical. Consider for a moment a small-scale farmer in Marsh Central, someone unlike any relative most of us probably have. For years, they've worked tirelessly, but have been held back by lack of capital. Through an AFC loan, they are able to acquire certified seeds and modern inputs. The result is not just bigger harvest, the result is transformation. With increased income, families can now afford better healthcare for themselves and their elderly family members. They can join their neighbors to invest in shared boreholes, strengthening the entire village's resilience to drought. They can become pillars of their communities and able to offer help to others. This is what social support looks like on the ground. It's not a government handout. It's an economic empowerment that allows people to support each other. And for you, the members of CZI, this has a direct impact. When you in agro-processing sector have a reliable, thriving base of supply, your supply chain is secure, your business grows, and you create more stable formal employment, further strengthening that national safety. So in this pillar, MIF's companies, I mentioned AFC before, there's also COTCO, and we also have all the agro-processing companies under IDC that are key to the development of this pillar of social support via the importance of agriculture in our economy. Pillar 3 is that makes you happy, apparently, is a healthy life expectancy. It refers to the difference between just a life of fragility but a life of vitality. And nothing is more fundamental to this than our basic public services. When we focus at MIF on improving the operational efficiency and capacity of critical utilities like ZESA, we're making a direct investment in the healthy life expectancy of every single Zimbabwean. So if you think about it, a stable power supply means a rural clinic can keep the vaccine refrigerator running for 24 hours a day, ensuring every child gets their life-saving immunization. It means a surgeon in a district hospital can perform a critical operation at night without fear of power cut. It means municipal water pumps can run consistently, providing clean, safe drinking water to our cities and towns, drastically reducing the threat of waterborne diseases like cholera. This isn't just about infrastructure for its own sake. This is about giving our people the most precious gift of all, which is the gift of a long and healthy life. It is the platform upon which all other economic and social progress is built. The fourth pillar, which is the freedom to make life choices. The fourth pillar, it represents the essence of human aspiration, the ability to choose your own path, to build a life that you value without being constrained by poverty or lack of opportunity. Economic development in its truest sense is the expansion of these choices. For too long, the choices of our brightest young people have been false ones. Stay here and struggle, or live and build a life elsewhere. We have to create a new choice. Stay here in Zimbabwe and thrive. This is where the diversity of Mutapa Investment Fund's portfolio is key. By investing across a spectrum of industries, from mining and energy to agriculture and technology, we are helping to create a rich tapestry of career opportunities. An investment in a company like NRZ isn't just about moving cargo. It's about creating opportunities for logistics planners, engineers, skilled artisans, Revitalizing a textile company creates paths for designers, machine operators, and marketing experts. And industry is the ultimate creator of these choices. Every new product line that is launched, every new market that is entered, every new position that is created is a new pathway for young Zimbabweans to be able to stay and thrive in their country and build their own country. Our role is to ensure that the foundations of these economic conditions, reliable power, efficient logistics, available capital, are all in place so that you, the industry, can create those opportunities at scale. And pillars 5 and 6, which represent generosity and trust, are effectively the soul of the nation. They are intertwined. And more often than not, they are measured by the absence of corruption. Now, these speak to the character and soul of a nation. Generosity is about the pro-social behavior that binds us together, while trust is the bedrock of a functional modern economy. And trust, which I would like to speak to a little bit, is perhaps the most valuable currency of this. When there's trust in our institutions, business is easier. Transaction costs go down. International partners are more willing to invest in our country. Our word becomes our bond on the global stage. That is why a core mandate of Mutapa is to instill world-class corporate governance in the entities that we manage. When we professionalize a strategic asset, like, for example, National Oil Infrastructure Company, we are doing more than just managing the fuel supply. We're building trust. It means transparent procurement processes, merit-based leadership, and clean, internationally audited financials. When a global logistics firm or an airline sees that our national fuel infrastructure is run with unimpeachable integrity, they are far more likely to see Zimbabwe as a viable regional hub. That confidence brings investment, foreign currency, and jobs. The message we are sending as Mutapa is very simple. Zimbabwe's key national assets are managed professionally, transparently, and are open for business. So the message today, ladies and gentlemen, is very simple from me. The pursuit of national happiness is not just a separate social agenda. It is the ultimate goal of a successful economic and industrial strategy. The work you do in industry and the work we do at Mutapa are two sides of the same coin. You are the engine, and Mutapa is the strategic partner, which ensures that that engine runs efficiently and powerfully towards a single shared destination. So I'd like to encourage us to all work together with a sense of purpose. Bring your boldest, most ambitious projects, the ones that don't just promise a financial return, but also a clear return on happiness for our country. Let us form a joint approach between Mutapa and CZI to identify the key infrastructure and capital blockages that, if removed, would unleash the greatest wave of industrial growth and well-being that our country has ever faced. Let us build an industrial sector that is not only profitable, but is a proud, conscious builder of our national happiness. And Mutapa is ready to stand as the anchor of such a project. Thank you. To stay here for any questions if there are.
Yeah. You're not going, no. You can keep going.
Yeah.
You know, with Mutapa,
I thought the talk about happiness might keep people quiet.
you know, and with Mutapa, you know how it goes. Everybody has got questions when they have Mutapa in their room. So that was Simba's presentation. Let's give a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. The beauty of it is that Chairman Mutapa Fund is here. She's been with us for the since Monday, Wednesday, every single day from morning until 4 p.m. And it's been a pleasure having her, and of course, just plugging into the conversations. So now we go to the floor. If you've got any question, you know the drill. You stand up, say your name, where you're from, and you ask your question with your chest. There we go. We've got a hand there. I'll take a cycle of 3 questions, which he will take down. Do you want a piece of paper? Which he will take down, and then he will respond to 3 questions. Or do you want a book? What would you like, paper or book? Oh, you see, he's an actuary. He said, I'm actually downgrading him. It's like I was just going to use my mental aptitude, yeah? All right, sir, please, let's go ahead.
Thank you very much for the presentation. My name is Theodas Mambondo, CEO of Success Light Ugi, German, and Success Light Conglomerate Zimbabwe. My question for Mutapa is that how best, mainly speaking for the people in diaspora who have enough capital, who would want to invest into the projects, into the country, how best can we probably we don't want to then fall 100% under Mutapa, but something collaborative where we could work together and build some of those funds. Because the challenge we have is that once the money hits your financial system, even if we want, our objective is to lower the interest rate. Capital is expensive in Zimbabwe, everyone knows that. So we want to try and lower it. So whenever we make efforts, once the money reaches the financial system, we cannot keep it down below 7% or 9%, of which we really want to keep it low as to 6% for people to really do a proper business. So how best can we probably work with you to establish this kind of fund that will be under our control, but with you on the board, because we don't trust you where you report to. Thank you.
Okay, under your control, but with him on board. Yeah, as Mutapa. Okay, there we go. Sir?
Hello, my name is Kevin Mutapa. I'm with CZ. Just want to pick your thoughts on two assets under your control. Energy space. We have
Closer to the mic, please.
okay. The energy space, you have ZETDC and ZPC. Two opportunities or challenges that could turn out to be opportunities. A World Bank report came out and said the cost recovery is about 17 cents per kilowatt hour. That's been the basis for the increases. But there's been no roadmap to a lower tariff that will allow businesses to become more competitive. There's also an opportunity in terms of rehabilitating the grid. There's a lot of private investment that's coming in the renewable space. But part of unlocking that investment lies with rehabilitating the grid and bringing down the price in terms of transmitting electricity and distributing it to consumers. There's also CSC. It's slowly coming online, but we've noted that a lot of the efforts seem to be in the slaughtering space, abattoir, and that space is overpopulated by private abattoirs. But there is significant opportunity in breeding and pushing through throughput. And I think the assets under CSC in terms of the ranches and the potential there, is there scope, or do you see yourselves putting more investment in breeding and growing the national herd? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the third hand somewhere here. Thank you, Florence.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. My name is McLean Sibanda from Big and Global Limited, based out of Mauritius and South Africa. So my question is basically two questions. One is just to better understand the minimum ticket size of your investments. And secondly, what sectors you cover. And then perhaps related to that is, are you supporting any triple Ps? Would you come into a triple P, for example, as a debt or equity, partner with somebody coming in from outside to invest into infrastructure projects in Zimbabwe? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So he's going to respond to the three questions, and we'll have a second cycle. Thank you, Simba.
Thank you very much. The first question, which really started with a challenge, because the last thing, Theodos, that you mentioned is the one that really tickled me, because you said you would like to see how you can set up a fund with Mutapa Investment Fund, but under your control, because you don't trust where we report to. And I acknowledge your feelings towards that, and can probably only say that Mutapa is probably, unlike many other agencies that you have seen, is probably one of the most professionally run funds that I have seen, especially ones that are actually controlled by government, not just in Zimbabwe, but everywhere that we have visited, because we have actually anchored the fund on what others are doing around the world. And this is the only fund where the board chair who's here is not a politician, it's actually a seasoned industrialist. And her whole board, there's not a single politician, it's full of seasoned industrialists. And then in addition to that, it is professionally run by a management team. So hopefully over time, you will see that the work that we are doing there is a professional work, and then we can build that trust. But I also wanted to throw just back at you. I'm not going to ask you to respond, because then we'll do a back and forth, which the whole room will probably not enjoy. I don't know where in the world you ask someone to give you some money to start a fund, but you say, don't control it because I don't trust where you come from. I have not yet seen that. But if it is your money, we don't seek to control your money. You can set up your fund and run it the way you want, and we will happily partner with you in the investments that are under our control. So if it's your money, do as you wish with it, sir. But if it is our money, we will not give you without control. I think it's just a fair way to do business anywhere in the world. Now, before you did speak about that, I just started with the last thing because it was a bit controversial, and I like controversy. But you did speak also about some things that I think are actually very important, about the issue of high cost of capital in our country, and as well as how we can actually work together. So as a fund, and I will answer this because it also answers McLean's question to a certain extent. As a fund, we run under 6 main clusters. And those clusters are headed by what we call cluster heads, so they're effectively the head fund manager for each sector. And Mutapa's portfolio constitutes of companies that were formerly state-owned enterprises. Our total valuation, we're still working on it, but it's anything from 12 to 16 billion. 16 billion probably gross asset value, and then if you take out some liabilities, you might come back a little bit further down. So and our address, for those that don't know, we are a public entity, so we will tell you, is 49 Q Drive, Highlands. I did give out my cards to a few people, but this is something as well that we'll make available, so that if you do want to reach us and discuss your projects and how we can work together, you can do that. We also have a website, www.mif.co.zw. Over there, you will see how to contact us. We're a very transparent and accessible organization. We're not hiding in the shadows. And I do agree with you that the cost of capital is high. The main issue for that is, from our experience, it's country risk. Country risk, Zimbabwe country risk is pretty high, and that results in a high cost of capital. And also, maybe I'd like to throw down a gauntlet to everybody to say, most of the capital that we need in this country is international. And international capital tends to be priced in US dollars. And when you look at that, even though the US dollar base risk-free rate is low, when you then add currency risk and policy country risk and policy inconsistency issues, you'll find that our capital starts to go up. Mutapa is working hard to leverage the assets that we have to reduce that cost of capital so that it comes down. I think we are already now managing to access capital at between 10 and 12%, whereas you'll find that in the industry, if you are getting international capital, most people are doing it above 15%. At some point, though, we all have to agree that if we are in control of our monetary policy, we're able to reduce our cost of capital a lot better. If we can mobilize savings and investments from within, the cost of capital tends to come down. But when we rely on it from outside, then we're not in control of that cost of capital. My brother Kevin asked a question on a couple of practical things. Energy. ZETDC and ZPC indeed are under Mutapa, under the ZESA Holdings umbrella. And you are right, the current cost of energy is high. You did mention that there is no roadmap to how, on lowering that tariff. I'd like to say that there is, but perhaps we need to be better at communicating it. I'd say that there are many factors that that affect the price of energy in our country. The cost of capital, we've already said, is pretty high. That in itself affects how much you can then charge for the product in order to give return to the providers of that capital. But in addition, our generation costs are high. And the reason is really that Zimbabwe's power is designed to have a base load that is absorbed by Kariba. And Kariba is one of the lowest forms of power generation that we can actually have. But unfortunately, due to climate change and other factors, we don't always get all our power from there. And as a result, we start to utilize power generation methods that are of a higher cost. And that already creates, if our generation costs are high, our selling costs will also be high. But the other parts also that form the costs of capital. I mentioned the cause. The solution for that is we are investing in a lot of our base power generation capacity, both in terms of having an expanded production on our water in terms of hydroelectricity. But in addition to that, we are also looking at projects where we put solar panels on top of that vast mass of water that we have and utilize the power of the sun that is free, effectively, to be able to reduce the generation costs. We have recently signed a project for $455 million to increase the capacity of Wange. That will help reduce the power. And the other part, of course, is distribution costs. We have a very old distribution system, transmission and distribution system. There's quite a bit of losses when we generate. So we are also allocating capital to ZETDC for them to lower the cost of distribution, of transmission and distribution. And part of that includes us actually being able to manufacture our own cables instead of having to import them. So we have a project as well that is aligned towards that. And finally, and this is something where I put on the ZESA hat and ask, please, the final issue with costs is collection. Guys, please pay your bills. Because when you don't pay your bills, we don't reinvest in power generation, we don't reinvest in transmission and distribution, and someone else has to pay. And the few that pay end up having to pay a slightly higher cost. You can imagine if you were somebody who was modeling the price of electricity. In your model, you're going to put many factors. I'm not going to go through that. But probably the one factor I want to say is you also put in the loss due to non-collection so that you can actually make enough money to be able to pay for that capital that we mentioned that we have used to build our electricity system. So industry, please pay your bills. CSC, yeah, you mentioned that I would like to advertise CSC for a little bit. CSC until perhaps last week, and I think we're almost finished with that process, was actually under judicial management, so it wasn't functioning. It was functioning at a very limited capacity. But we have now almost completed payment of all the creditors. Mutapa has taken CSC out of judicial management. We're just waiting for the final sign-offs on that. And when that happens, I think a lot of what... when that process is, it's obviously a legal process, so certain people have to sign certain things, but we're pretty much done and we're all aligned. That is done, including with the necessary authorities. But when that happens, now we can bring this company online and actually allow it to be the powerhouse that it has always been. And I know you mentioned that the abattoirs, in the abattoirs region, there's an overpopulation of abattoirs, so you'd like to see a strategy that looks at the breeding and what we are doing with the vast resource of ranches. I think over 240,000 hectares of land under CSC. Firstly, regardless of the number of abattoirs in Zimbabwe, CSC's abattoir is the best abattoir in the region, bar none. So that is already a competitive advantage. We will not abandon that part, because CSC must be an outlet for all our farmers to be able to bring their beef and other animals as well to our abattoirs, because believe it or not, Zimbabwe still has quotas with the EU, and the abattoirs at CSC, particularly the Bulawayo one, was actually built to EU standards so that we can export our beef. So it was actually meant to be an export mechanism, not just for local demand. So I do think that our abattoirs are important, and they will continue to be so, purely because there is no better abattoir. You should visit it if you can. This is not an invitation. You have to speak to the guys on the ground. But if you can and you're in Bulawayo, please do visit it and you'll see exactly what I mean. I think those that have gone there are still in awe at the standard of that abattoir. And we continue to receive a lot of interest from outside the country purely because of the infrastructure that CSC has. So the infrastructure is still good. We just now have to get going. In terms of ranches, we are very much open to partnerships. Currently, there are a lot of ranches under CSC that are actually in partnerships with people. So I think that model will continue. We are obviously tasked to rebuild the country's herd, and as a result, there are certain things that we must do that align with that mandate, but also we think commercially. So if it will make money for CSC, it will be good for the country as a whole. We are very much open to partnerships. So please do reach out to the head of cluster for agriculture and agro-processing. His name is Tatenda Chimsoro at MIF. Then the third question I had was from McLean. Our minimum ticket size is actually not that high. So maybe the more important thing is for me to actually say what stage we are at Mutapa. We have inherited predominantly underperforming assets. There are still some very good assets, but they have been underperforming. The assets under Mutapa Investment Fund used to be 40% of our economy. They used to represent 40% of our economy. Now they represent probably, that number is very difficult to say. That's part of the reason why we are now, why we have these companies, so that we can actually look after them and give you more accurate figures on that. But different reports will give you anything between 7% and 20%. Right? So even if it was at the higher end of what the companies under Mutapa's contribution is, it is half of what that contribution used to be in the past. And that has a knock-on effect on industry as a whole, because these are essential services companies. They're not just a company that, was making money for one person. Whether they were making money or not, they were still essential for you to be able to make money in your own industry. So our current stage is to revitalize and turn around these companies. That is the primary goal we have for the next 3 years at least. We can invest in other things outside of our portfolio, but we have a huge portfolio with a huge need. So we are more concentrated on dealing with our own companies. We are, however, open to partnerships with other people to help us to turn around those companies. So if you have capital, if you have products, if you want to partner, if you want to acquire something, come, let's talk to us and we can see where we are. But our primary goal at the moment is our own portfolio as opposed to investing elsewhere. So the issue of minimum ticket size doesn't really apply to us at the moment. Having said that, we do look at some opportunities if they're really good and are aligned to the portfolio of companies that we've got. And when that happens, we might be willing to look at it and see whether we invest in it, but only because we think that it is aligned to the portfolio and our goal to revitalize these companies. I did say, I'm not going to speak too much about the sectors that we cover, because you can see that on our website, which I gave you earlier. Please go there. There's a lot of information about it. Our annual report should be coming up in the next month, Chair. So when that happens, there will also be a lot more information that can help you to see how you can engage with Mutapa. Triple P support, we are in the middle of it. There are various ways that we can actually do it. In fact, the $450 million project that I mentioned for the refurbishment of Wanga is a Triple P project. So Mutapa is a key part of that Triple P. We do provide debt. We do sometimes, we have equity, especially if it's something that's relating to our entities by default, we're already equity holders of that. But also, I think an important part where Mutapa really comes in is that we de-risk projects, so we de-risk investments. By virtue of us having a diversified balance sheet, we are able to apply that, leverage that balance sheet to de-risk some projects that we have. And we can do that via either taking a first loss clause in any agreement. So if there's debt issued, we could guarantee it as well. So we can provide just a pure Mutapa guarantee, or we can provide a first loss clause in there to make sure that, you know, if something goes wrong, we're the first ones to get a hit before you kind of see it. So there are various ways we do, but yeah, we are very much in Triple P projects.
Okay. Allow me to disappoint you. He has to go.
Yes.
He's got a board meeting. He's got to go. It's 10 to 10, so he's got to go. I'm sorry.
Take one.
We'll take one. Who do I pick? How do
Also, sorry.
Am I using age? Am I using gender? What do I do?
So can I say, we'll take one question while I'm on here, but the chairman of the board is also here and can take a few more questions as well. It's just I have a NOIC board that I really must go to, but I can take one question and then leave the rest for the chairman if people need.
Okay, Sekai, are you using your powers as CZI president? I mean, Florence, are you, what is it? I mean, like, seriously.
No, I wanted to actually assist you, and assist him,
Yes.
and say that this is really the beginning of our conversation with Mutapa.
Yeah.
So it's not the end of our conversation. The reason we brought Mutapa here was because we recognize that they are very important to industry. Their companies, their portfolio are a key enabler to industry, as we are aware, and they anchor a lot of our industrial development. So this is just an opening conversation about the Mutapa factor. Expect another conversation completely focused on that portfolio and relating with the various aspects that we want to discuss. So we will have a discussion soon, which is more far-reaching, as it were. So I got up to save your life.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. But that being said, Doc would like to say a few words.
Thanks. I just wanted to say something before Simba leaves. As you can see, the showcase that Simba made is just a tiny snippet of what Mutapa has been. And this is an achievement for over less than 24 months. I think it's 18 months. And I think a lot of issues have been really to build up the blocks that really can make Mutapa a progressive entity in terms of just focusing, firstly, on the revitalization of the state entities that are under Mutapa, but also after that, to look at other areas that are critical in this economy. Simba has mentioned the issue of us having an annual report. I know that it is kind of delayed. The main reason is that they had to do quite a technical evaluation of all entities under Mutapa. And that really required a lot of discussions, debate, even with the auditors who also can have their own valuers. And to really get those valuations as accurate as possible. So there will be a Mutapa Day where we are going to be unveiling a lot of issues for Mutapa before the end of the year. And certainly, Sekai, we hear you. I think CZI has to be advised and attend that Mutapa Day as we unpack a lot of issues for Mutapa. But I must say kudos to Simba, John Mangujga, and the rest of the team, because really they've really worked to, if you see I think the analysts that Simba works with, those people are really working flat out. I wouldn't want to say 24 hours of the day, but they really are. I mean, to get a CSC out of judicial management, to get NRZ making sense, to try and get fertilizer value chains working, the energy sector. I think Simba did mention the 450 million triple P. There's also the 240 million that they were working on, which they've just successfully also concluded for the ZTEDC, for prepaid meters and other things. So there's a lot of work that is happening in the background. And I know that, he has referred to the website, but maybe the website will not do justice. But bear with us, it's a process. And I know that in the coming year or two, you'll begin to see a lot of more Mutapa issues being visible in this economy, because the mandate is big, so are the processes. So hopefully, by the end of this year, you'll hear much more, and then maybe, Sekai, you can also get to engage even much more after that. Thank you.